there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed...
680 to 90, 10-4.
Order in the corner.
could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz. And our guest today is Walter Oden, Managing Director of Oden Development. And welcome back, Walter.
Thank you.
Can you give our listeners some nitty-gritty advice on really what does success mean to a business owner and an entrepreneur?
I think if you look at Polonius in Hamlet, he would tell you that to thine own self be true. I think you have to know who you are, what you bring to the table. Some of the things that I would tell people and business owners when I was at the SBA is that there's a lot of free advice out there. Whether you talk to a SCORE counselor, Service Corps retired executives, if you talk to a SBDC center, of which you have a couple of them based in these colleges around Long Island. But I think the biggest things to having a successful business is managing cash flow and understanding finance. And if you don't, most people are scared of finance. Most people don't manage their own finances. So if you can't manage your finances, how do you manage a business finance? So I think to know your banker before you go and ask for a loan, to understand what those proceeds are, whatever those proceeds are for. If it's for working capital, it's for buying equipment, whatever that the money is going to be used for, to understand what that means. I've seen people say, I need $1 million. And so what are the proceeds for? And they're like, no, I just need $1 million. And it's not realistic. I think you have to be realistic when you have these conversations with the personnel that can help you get your company from A to Z.
I also think part of what needs to come into play here is that you have a purpose for the business beyond that you like doing what you do.
Oh, I love it. I love you, Ray. You are my hero.
Well, the reason I say that is I look at someone like you, and you've been in been in very diverse businesses, yes. But I do see that there is a common thread there. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be doing it because there's a passion inside of you. And I definitely see that in you. So tell us a little bit about that journey from being pharmaceutical to, because we haven't really heard too much about the earlier stuff. We're hearing a little bit more about what's going on now.
So, I had a beautiful upbringing with two beautiful people in my parents. My father was a doctor of education. My mother was a sixth grade teacher. And in fact, she was my teacher, which was horrific, but we won't even talk about that for a semester. But you talk about the journey. My father instilled in me a deep sense of and a commitment to family. So for me, every experience I have had is about my family. And so this company is not about me or my wife. It is really about my 16-year-old daughter. So when she gets out of Brown, Harvard, Yale, whomever will take her, she'll have an opportunity to go to Wall Street. She'll have an opportunity to go into the television business, or she'll have an opportunity to work for Oden Development and take that company to the next level. So it's really about family at the end of the day.
And you don't imagine her doing stunts?
No. that will not happen. No.
Well, I think you won over Ray at Silence of the Lambs. So he's a big movie buff, like he mentioned, and big on family, as we all are. So when you talk about family, and that just sounds like you're building a legacy for your daughter. How does she inspire you, and what type of things do you do as a father of a daughter leading the next generation.
So I'll tell you a quick story. Gwyneth Paltrow was on Oprah, and she said she had this big build-up about going to Paris with her father. And she said her father, at the end of the day, said, when you saw the most beautiful city in the world, I wanted to be with the man you'd love for the rest of your life. My daughter and I just got back from Paris.
Oh, wow.
You're putting the pressure on Ray. He's like 3 daughters.
Yeah, I got 3
Paris trips. Maybe how can I combine that, save some money, and make it into one? So I'm sure he's taking notes.
I'm doing my best. So, passion, what other ingredients do you look for in a successful business owner when you were in your seat advising business owners? So
I think the team, having the right team, if you know you don't have the competency. So I'm a great marketer, I'm a great salesperson, and I'm a great big picture thinker. My attention to detail can be a little off sometimes. So I know I need to have someone on my team that has a great attention to detail. And so again, I go back to thine self be true. If you understand who you are and what you bring to the table, you know you need to build out a team. And Sheila Johnson, former co-owner of BET, she has Salamander Farms. She owns the part of the Wizards, Capitals, and Mystics now in D.C. She says, surround yourself with a great team and build that team slowly. And I think that's a critical ingredient to success, having the right team.
What are some of the future plans for Oden as you see it? So
I'd like to own a couple of hotels, and the fact that I can build those hotels means I can buy the hotel cheaper than most in my competition. I think that's, for me, it's having a passive income stream that I think I again take that from the television industry. We make a television show once, I'm still getting residual checks from Malcolm X. They're not very big at this point, but to do something once and have a residual income from it, I think is a phenomenal strategy for success and wealth building.
I think that's a fantastic lesson. You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, and our guest today is Walter Oden, Managing Director of Oden Development. Tell us a little bit about some of your experiences with Spike Lee.
So it was interesting. Coming up, I was a kid that was based in Miami. One of my mentors was the stunt double for Philip Michael Thomas on Miami Vice. Most millennials wouldn't even understand what Miami Vice was.
You're giving me life right now, Walter. You're making me like one of the happiest women in the world.
Well, I'll tell you, David Lomax took me under his wing. I took my brother under his wing, brought us up to New York, and and we didn't know a lot about the business, and they literally taught us the business on the set, and it's been a joy. And I'll throw another name out for you, Mel Greffet. She's the one who worked with Burt Reynolds. She was Melanie Greffet. Her father was Mel Greffet, who did all the Flipper movies. But she took us under her wing, and I think mentorship and advocacy has been one of the key ingredients to success. But when you have that mentorship and advocacy, you got to work your butt off and make sure that your mentor and advocate, you make them look good. And I think my brother and I and my family, we always do that for whomever we're working with.
And who do you look up to as a mentor?
My father was phenomenal. He's no longer with us, but, everyone revered my father because he was just that guy. He was a very large man, very gregarious. I could go around anywhere in the state of Florida pretty much, and if it's in the education space, I'll find someone that he touched. And I think I watched that as a kid, and I try to emulate that now in my adult life.
So how do you give back to the community, and what type of philanthropy are you a part of?
So a lot of my philanthropy is actually done through my wife, who is a brilliant business leader with a banking institution. But she's on the Apollo board. She's on one of Russell Simmons' boards for Art for Life, and young people, I think, is our passion. And wealth building for our community is our passion. So we want to make sure that we see so many kids who take some of the kids who go into the NFL or NBA. They play for 4 or 5 years. They make $100 million, whatever the number is, and then 4 years later they're broke. How does that happen? It's really a shame. So for us, it's really teaching people how to build wealth. I think that's one of our passions.
Yeah, it sounds to me like he didn't have the right team around him.
No. And not many of them do. I'll tell you, the one I'm so impressed with is LeBron James. And one of the guys who grew up with him is literally the number one most exciting agent in the business now, because LeBron made each one of them go back to school and learn the business. He's phenomenal. A phenomenal story.
Yeah, he was in Forbes magazine, top 100 sports agents.
Yes.
Can't think of his name, but yeah, it was a great story. I was reading through the top sports agents recently, and his company popped up. So, building a team around you is really great. So I would say, as you're building a team, who's on your Mount Rushmore of entrepreneurs or real estate developers or entertainers?
Wow. I like these urban entrepreneur entertainers who take, whether it be the music industry, the television industry, and allow it to help them build back for their community. So again, I go to LeBron James or a Jay-Z or Beats by Dr. Dre, right? These guys have built phenomenal businesses, and they surrounded themselves with the right people. I don't get into their social piece, but from a business piece, I can admire them. But I love Bob Johnson and what he has built. He's now the largest minority hotel owner of Marriotts in the country because he took the BET $3 billion. I mean, if you give me $3 billion, I think I might be able to follow suit. But he took that $3 billion, split half of it with Sheila. Sheila had $1.5 billion. He had $1.5 billion, but he bought 30,000 hotel rooms from Marriott. That's a phenomenal story. Sheila and the business she's built with Salamander Farms and the Mystics. I love that as a story. So and I think my wife, I hate to cut you off, but if I don't say this, my wife is probably one of the smartest business people I know, and I admire her. I go to her for counsel, and she helps direct me. So,
smart man.
Happy wife, happy life.
Absolutely.
So I have two last questions for you. Mm-hmm. One is, what parting thoughts would you like to leave our listeners? And then two is, how can they find you?
So you can find me at odendevelopment.com, ODEN development.com. And what parting wisdom? I think, again, business is about managing cash flow. It's about managing your finances, and it's about developing great teams. You can't do it by yourself. If you look at any company, and I don't care what company you're looking at, there's not one person that is driving it by themselves. So you have to have a great team. And for me, I used to tell my folks at MTV and A&E this, I want to pay you as much as I can, and I want you to work your butts off for me, because I want you to have your island. Whatever that island is. For me, the island literally was an island. I wanted an island in the Bahamas. But it could be, you want a Honda Accord, whatever that is. Because I said, if you have an island and I have an island, we can now that means I have at least 2 or 3 islands or 4 islands. It's not just about me, it's about us. So I want to make sure that I have the right team and I reward them for their efforts.
All right, we have some philosophy on our hands here. DB, let's hear some philosophy.
Well, it's called DB's Philosophy. I'm convinced that people are born leaders with entrepreneurial spirit, even if it's dormant for years, awaiting to surface. Perseverance and taking the leap of faith is what separates successful business owners from dreamers. Dare to dream and leap forward. Walter, thank you for being here with us today, and we appreciate you providing that wisdom, that insight. And folks, don't forget to connect with Walter on LinkedIn, on his website, odendevelopment.com. And we'd like to thank you again as the managing director of Oden Development. You're giving back. You're making a difference.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. The creative director of Tower Talk Business Radio is Rudy Breedy. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the National Community College Foundation, on the voice of National Community College 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.